Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? My name's Craig Otto. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. Today we're going to start part 3 of my white belt training series. My intentions are to provide basic insights and understanding of operational excellence for those that are just starting out in their journey. This is actually the 5th video, but it's part 3 because I do follow-up videos in between there. I like to do a training piece and then follow up. So we've had part 1 and part 1 follow up, part 2 and part 2 follow up for the first 4 videos, and now we're getting ready for part 3, which is the 5th video. All right, so we're going to start out discussing things from the perspective of the Otto model. We've been doing that through the first 4 videos, so we're going to continue. We've learned that the importance in those first few videos of the personal transformation by anchoring your choices to principles of excellence. Then we discussed the individual behaviors necessary for achieving excellence. And now we're getting ready to start tying things to the operation behavior. So on the diamond, the left side there, operation behavior is what we're going to start digging into. So when I say operation behavior, I mean that's kind of the sum of the individual behaviors in which we call culture. But it's also beyond culture. It gets into strategy, structure, and then execution. And these components are what drive an operational excellence transformation. All right, so we're going to start by discussing structure first. And what I mean by structure is how the operation is set up with the lean tools and systems. It does get a little bit deeper than that, but for now, again, for the white belt level, we're going to keep it high level. So let's give some examples of things that we can talk about for structure. First is training. When you train the culture, many times, you think about sitting everyone down doing training activities, but actually we use the lean events. All right, so if you ever hear of Kaizen, rapid improvement event, value stream analysis, these types of events are actually what we use to train. Yes, the events make improvements, but more importantly and primarily, the events are used to train employees. Because after so many years of doing events, you can actually get away from events because the people are trained, and then it becomes a part of the continuous improvement culture. So executing gets into the organization's ability to follow that standard work that you put in place and having systems in place to ensure the organization gets the value that it's looking for as quickly as possible. And then sustainment. It's about eliminating the flow stoppers, having a cadence of accountability for follow-up, for the actions, and then also remember that sustainment is a function of how well we combat the second law of thermodynamics, which pushes everything towards disorder. Okay, so that's why sustainment is such a key part of structure. All right, so we're going to go back and talk about the lean tools in this event-based culture that we're setting up. Just a reminder, holding events is all about training, right? Don't lose that insight. So when you hold an event, you should actually do training just like we're doing right now, like the white belt training, especially if they're new to the events. This is very important. You can go through the motions of an event to show people how the lean tools are used, but you have to help them understand why. So in other words, don't just take them out and do a lean tool. Yes, you learn by doing, but you also need to have the conversation. Why are we using that tool? What benefit does it provide? And that will help their understanding much more. All right, so the first type of event that we're going to discuss today is called value stream analysis, or VSA. All right, so VSA is a hierarchical type of event. It's the purpose of it is to make a plan to eliminate waste. It's just a plan. There's no actual waste that's reduced during that event or that type of activity. But it creates a plan for 2 types of events. We call this first type of event a rapid improvement event. Some people call it a Kaizen. So RIEs is what you may hear me call it. Rapid Improvement Event is RIE. The other thing would be problem solving. So problem solving, I denote it as PSCA, sometimes problem solving corrective action. But these types of events are used to reduce and eliminate variation in flow stoppers. Okay, so there's two different types of events that take action here. And that is the rapid improvement event, which eliminates waste, and then the PSCA or problem solving event, which eliminates variation. Okay, and then again, the VSA is the planning of those types of events. Okay, we are going to deep dive into this tool of value stream analysis, or VSA. In the picture, you can see an example of the learning to see method of value stream mapping. This is a book that was written on how to do value stream mapping. It works, it's effective. It's not absolutely necessary though. I think it makes everything look cool, but really you just need the bottom line. All right, the bottom line is it's about documenting current state and getting that data and identifying waste, to see, you know, in your current state, what is providing value, what is non-value, and quantifying that. We call this identifying the waste because you're quantifying the waste. And we learned from video 2 what the wastes are. Remember the 8 different types and the acronym of downtime? Each one of those are 8 different wastes. If you don't remember that, go back to video 2, just refresh yourself. And as mentioned, we must measure and quantify the waste. That's so important. All right. The best way to not only measure the waste is to also make it visual. And we do this with a tool called spaghetti diagram. And you'll understand why we call it that in a minute. The diagram helps show the waste, especially the waste of motion and transportation. And by seeing the waste and measuring it, it provides us a gap analysis of where we are compared to where we want to be. So it allows us to see that opportunity of improvement. From there, we can do a future state, which has our estimated improvements, right? And it's not that the future state is perfect. Rather, it's a step towards perfection. And the future state shows the process after a series of actions are taken to eliminate and reduce the waste. The series of actions that I was referring to is known as the plan, right? The plan is the ultimate deliverable of the value stream analysis. So it's the whole reason we do it is to get that plan. And most people misunderstand that this type of activity does not actually lead to actual change in the event itself. It's just the plan to go make the actual change. It's the goal, right? It's the game plan. And the actions come later with the different tools like RIEs and PSCAs to eliminate waste and reduce variation. All right, so let's dive into an example here. I'm going to talk about a made-up current state here. This is just a list of bullets here. So we'll dig into this eye chart also in the next follow-up video too, where I'll give an actual example. But here I'm just giving an example of process steps of value and non-value added steps and the time associated with it. And if there's inventory there, I note that. I also note the distance traveled. That's the last number there. So it talks about the type of waste first, then the time that it takes, and then the distance traveled. So it just lists out the different steps of the process. You can see there's only 7 value-added steps compared to a lot more non-value-added steps. This is representative of most processes. Actually, I would say you may even have more non-value-added steps than what I'm showing here. But for the sake of the example, we'll just go with this one. All right, so I said a way that you can quantify waste is to see it visually. And so we're going to jump to the spaghetti diagram tool and see why it's so valuable. So we've already listed out our current state, And now what we're doing is making that current state visible. So here we have the work that it takes to get done. There's 4 different stations. We'll follow the product and draw the path as it flows through the processes. And the lines represent a visible view of the waste, right? Because the value added takes place in the stations, and then the line represents the product and operator flow back and forth between all the stations. Anyone who gets trained by me will hear me say what I say next very often. As we can see from the current state here, the visual waste, the more distance between where the work is done, and you can see it just creates that waste. So distance is the enemy. So we want to visually see the waste, right? And distance is the enemy. By having distance between your work and your parts, distance between your work and your tools, you create waste of motion and therefore waste of time. Okay, so distance is really the enemy here when it comes to lean manufacturing. That's what we're really trying to tackle, is reducing this distance. Reducing distance reduces waste. Now it says easy, but does hard, meaning it's as simple as reducing waste, but yet it's as complex as reducing waste, as you'll gain from firsthand experience. So let's take the next step. So now we've done current state. We've done our visual current state with our spaghetti diagram. Next, it's time to create a future state. Now the goal is to eliminate as much waste as possible, but we know we can't eliminate everything. So what we try to do is take our current state and walk through where we can eliminate waste. And every place where we think we can, we note that an RIE, again that stands for Rapid Improvement Event, will take place. So you can see here, and to give an example, I just did a RIE, or identified an RIE that would eliminate some waste here. I'm going to do another one to eliminate a few more wastes, and I keep identifying these RIEs to help me see where I can eliminate waste. And then once we've identified all the waste we want to eliminate, you can go forward with the assumption that you will eliminate this waste and create a future state without the waste listed. Okay, so you just kind of make that assumption that you may not know how it's going to happen, but you make the assumption that it will happen. So then what you do is you re-quantify the value added and non-value added metrics to show and quantify the improvements. And you can show from current to future, there's less steps, there's less time, there's less distance, and you can quantify that. But most importantly is, again, the main deliverable of this is the event plan. This is where the RIEs are identified in the future state, and we can plan them out as to what sequence we want to do them in and the importance of them. All right, so typically these events will focus on implementing core tools of lean, which I show these symbols, these 4 symbols here. They're on the little RIE bulldozer there. These 4 symbols represent 6S, one-piece flow, standard work, and pull systems. And you can see the symbols here for each. So anytime you see those symbols, just know that those are the core tools of lean. And for the sake of white belt training, I will say we will mostly just focus on 6S. So that's the main tool we'll focus on largely in video 4, and then how to implement in video 5. Okay, so just like we did with the current state, making it visual, we want to make the future state visual. So let's use our 4-station example so we can see the impact of waste as we implement the RIEs. So let's say we decide to reduce distance, right? So we're going to come in here, we're going to make station A closer, station B, station C, and then station D. We can see that all of these stations, by doing these events, we've moved them so that they're nice and close. The distance, which was the enemy, we've drastically reduced distance, therefore the time should be drastically reduced as well. All right. So as you can see visibly, there's significant waste reduced. Just looking back and comparing and by planning these solutions such as this, we can predict future state with less processing time. We can plan events that will make these changes to the floor. Just looking at that, reducing waste, reduced distance, reducing distance, reduced waste. So you can see visibly there, I have the current state spaghetti diagram up there in the top right. Just by looking comparison-wise, there's much less spaghetti in our future state. That shows the improved, reduced waste and improved state. All right. So, summary, value stream analysis, documenting current state and getting the data and identifying that waste is kind of the first step that we did. Then we made it visual. We took the spaghetti diagram, and then we took that the current state and spaghetti diagram and looked to make a future state, right? We looked at all the areas where we could take out waste and estimated those improvements by looking at implementing RIEs. And then we took the RIEs and created a plan to eliminate the waste, right? So we listed them out. We put a timeline to it of when we want to do it. And that's ultimately the deliverable of the VSA. All right, so this concludes part 3 of my training, the value stream analysis. It's a critical planning tool for Lean, and one that many people misunderstand. I think a lot of times when you do a VSA event, people think, okay, we're going to go make change. But you got to remember, it's a planning tool. It's not an execution tool. So for video 3 follow-up, so this will be my 6th video, I'm going to use our case study of marinating the chicken to perform a VSA. And I think that'll really help you understand the power of the VSA for creating a robust improvement plan. And then in video 4, we'll talk about the tool called 6S to eliminate the waste. In video 5, we'll do an actual rapid improvement event on the chicken marination example, and we'll see how much we save. So I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks for listening. And please like my video, subscribe to my channel. Don't be afraid to leave questions, comments, or suggestions. And until next time, God bless.